Welcome. You are watching 90 Minutes to Close the Loop. In this episode, we will be exploring the world of the bathroom, a very specific and iconic segment of the glass packaging market. And we're asking the question, is bathroom glass a forgotten asset for the closed loop? Most of the time, you will be interacting with glass packaging in households, and in particular, in the kitchen. But it's also very likely that you will be interacting on a daily basis with glass packaging in the bathroom. It's a totally different consumption style, which usually happens behind closed doors and where it might take a year to finish a perfume bottle or several weeks to go through a pot of skincare cream or a nail varnish container. In this episode, we'll be addressing consumer perception of these products when it comes to separate collection and recycling. We'll be looking at the evolution of the market in terms of product design for circularity of glass packaging in the beauty sector, and efforts made by brands through extended producer responsibility to create the necessary infrastructure for the proper collection of this type of packaging. Because, like all other glass packaging, cosmetics, perfumery, and toiletries contribute to the overall glass recycling rate. As we recently published the Eurostat estimate for 2022 of 75.6% glass packaging recycling, somewhere in that percentage, there is a contribution from bathroom glass. In the denominator, because it has been placed on the market, but also in the numerator, because it has been collected and recycled. And even if it's a small segment in terms of tonnage, I think it's fair to say that you can measure the overall performance of a system if it works for all of its components. And in addition, as we aim for ever higher targets, every part of the system has a role to play and needs to be optimized. That is why we are shining a spotlight on the bathroom glass segment today. We'll be starting with 3 case studies, then a follow-up panel discussion. And I would also like to invite you to take part in the conversation through the chat and the Q&A. I will be raising your questions with our speakers, so this is really your chance to get to know more about the challenges and opportunities of collecting and recycling more bathroom glass. You are joining us today from 18 different countries, and I would like to give a specifically warm welcome to the delegation from Mexico. Bienvenidos a ustedes. It's also great to see a representation of the value chain attending today with the glass manufacturing supply chain, but also colleagues from extended producer responsibility and waste management and recycling. So let's go straight to our first case study, and I would like to welcome Manon Désert. She is lead of practices and behavior change at Citeo. She'll be taking us into the minds of consumers and giving us some examples of recent communication campaigns focused on the bathroom. So Manon, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Thanks for the invitation to speak today. So indeed, I work for Citeo, which is the main organization in France responsible for the extended producer responsibility, EPR, in France on household packaging. I'm happy to tell more about Citeo and the system if there's any question. So my role at Citeo is lead of practices and behavior change. So I'm really at the crossroads between many different teams. And my role is to understand what are the obstacles and levers for consumers to adopt the behaviors that we want them to adopt, which are recycling the packaging, reusing the packaging, and also making sure they don't litter the packaging. My role is also to work with the team to design solutions to address those challenges and to monitor the evolutions of practices. I'll try to be a decent spokesperson for Citeo on that subject. I've involved a few colleagues before, but things I may mention may not be exhaustive, and Citeo may be doing other things. So what's interesting is really this subject. We can really link it to things we do with consumers, with cities, with the brands as well. So there may be potentially many teams working on that internally. One of the things I wanted to share with you to start with was some insights from one of our study that have been leading on this year. CTO monitors over time the evolution of practices of consumers on recycling. So both practices and attitudes that citizens have, so opinions about recycling. And this year we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of that study. So it's a really interesting time to look at the evolution and also to put it in perspective with the fact that the world has evolved in 10 years, and so how to also step back a bit and de-zoom for recycling and to understand how evolution of consumption practices, of habits, of relationship to hygiene, all those things, how does that impact also recycling practices. We've not yet shared externally those results, so it's a bit exclusive information. The reason why I'm not sharing any specific precise data here, I just wanted to give the broad ideas. One thing I can share is the fact that as we asked over time, the self-declared practices for recycling, we have a stable number of people declaring that they recycle in general. So it can be recycling super regularly or from time to time. Here I'm really including the number of people who may recycle at some point. And for glass, that's about 4 out of 5 people who recycle glass. That's relatively stable. People recycle a bit more regularly and a broader range of packaging, but I don't really think that impacts so much glass. In France, we've really, over the past 10 years, changed the rules around recycling plastic in particular. And so there's a broader range of people that really have integrated into their practice more recycling practices for those. I don't have specific data on glass for that. On glass, I can say that the self-reported practices are equal for glass, bottle, or jars. One thing to note is that there's no deposit return system in France that is at scale, which means that there's not necessarily specific habits that consumers have around bottles, although the glass recycling system is the oldest in France. So it's really something, and bottles are also products that have been around for a really long time in our consumption. So there are still these strong practices. And lastly, something I'd like to mention is the fact that when you ask people their opinion about recycling, we understand that recycling is still a really strong norm. It was created 30 years ago, the system was created. Recycling was the first behavior, the first practice that we ask people on a daily basis to really reduce their environmental impact of their consumption. Now the world has changed. There are many other things that citizens have to consider to reduce the environmental impact of their consumption, but let's say it's the most historic one. And it's still very strong. People really believe that it's the right thing to do, that they should be recycling. They believe it's to be a good citizen is to recycle, that is useful. However, we also see that some signs that this trust around it is being weakened. So, for example, more than a third of people agree with the sentence that it's not very useful to recycle because everything is mixed up afterwards. And that has really increased over the past 10 years. We can see many explanations that relate to recycling specifically, but also there are trust issues in our society more broadly. If I share now more specific information about what we have around bathroom glass, we don't have any study that is recent that really allows us to monitor the practice that are specific for that sector. However, I can share some insights from a study that we did in 2017, where we looked at 100 different types of packaging, which confirmed that even if it was not a massive gap, the bathroom products were indeed less recycled by consumers. And it was a bit unequal in between the different products of those glass bathroom products. We only looked at three, but the nail polish was really among the 10% least recycled packaging type that was being studied, whereas the perfume was a bit more in the middle range. What's more interesting, I think, is really to think of why consumers are less likely to recycle bathroom glass. And I think that's a really interesting case study because it really cumulates many obstacles that we can see with other types of packaging. The first is, as Jean-Paul mentioned at the beginning, that the bathroom is not really a room highly compatible with waste management because first, recycling system has been initially created and communicated around one room of the home, which is the kitchen. And the kitchen is a bit like our waste factory. Volumes are huge. It's smelly because it goes bad. So obviously, waste management and recycling of this product is a huge challenge that was the priority to deal with in the first place. But that also means that historically, the kitchen has been really at the core of that center, and the beauty, the bathroom products have been a bit added to that first initiative around food. Then, if we think about the bathroom, the space is limited, especially in cities. I found that photo online of a bathroom, but as we know, usually the photos that we found online are not representative of the bathroom that we have at home. And as a Parisian, I can mention that my bathroom is not that size. And also the fact that the waste management has not been integrated into the furniture. More and more modern flat, for example, or house, they have really built-in furniture, which have and waste management has not really been part of that design, and that's something that at Cito more globally we're trying to work on. And finally, around the bathroom, one interesting thing is the representations around this room. It's really the room that we associate with hygiene, with cleanliness. It's really the room of self-care. And the waste represent the dirty. And so when we're in a bathroom, we don't want dirty, we don't want waste, and we don't think about it either. So that's definitely, all those aspects are definitely a challenge associated with recycling that are linked to the room, which is the bathroom. Then if we look at the product now, as Jean-Paul mentioned, we have longer consumption periods compared to a can of Coke that can be consumed within 10 minutes. We hope that given the price of a perfume, we're not going to consume it in 10 minutes and that it's going to last months. And if we talk of, for example, of nail polish, where we just keep it just in case potentially during years. So there's less frequent disposal of packaging. And we know also that for engaging consumers, routines is really key. And we don't really, it's a bit harder to implement around bathroom. Then on the luxury side, there's definitely challenges around those types of product when it comes to recycling. We know that in France, glass is only the second main material in the beauty sector. So it was when it comes to tons of packaging. So we have 2022 data. Based on that, the glass represented 23% of the tons of packaging of the beauty industry. And that was far behind plastic, which was 53%. But we're talking tons, and glass is very heavy, right? So actually, if we look at the number of units of packaging, then it's only 6% of glass that is in of the packaging of the bathroom that is in glass. We may come back to those figures a bit later, but glass is really overrepresented in the luxury industry among a broader bathroom industry. And there are challenges around luxury product also for consumers in the sense that there's a reluctance to throw a packaging that seem really valuable. It's can be nearly like a sin to throw such a beautiful bottle of perfume, for example, at a glass collection point. We also have really complex product in the bathroom, and our studies prove that there's challenges around more depths around more complex packaging. Aerosol in the bathroom is a good example, but we also have with glass packaging like perfume again, nail polish. It's also quite complex material, and sometimes, as we can see with nail polish, it can be quite hard to empty as well. And the instruction that we give is to empty the products before throwing them in the recycling bin. So there's also some challenge around it. I'd love to share with you a few videos, but just as an introduction, I wanted to share with you some initiatives led by CTO to engage consumers around bathroom packaging. So we have done over the past some posters, for example, to help cities on communicating on the bathroom in general. And that was when the rules have changed over the past 10 years about what could be recycled or not. And our communication has completely changed. So to support cities in the communication around those change, we have created posters that were really specific to the bathroom, for example. And then I'd like to share with you some videos that we've worked on that were a digital campaign. The first one was a 2022 campaign based on the concept of, it was quite trendy 2 years ago on social media. There was a lot of content around beauty routine. And so the creative angle was to really integrate the beauty routine into the recycling into the beauty routine. And the second one that is being shown on the screen now is a collaboration that we had just for Halloween this year, last month, with an influencer in France. And the whole video is actually around how to recycle the products and the packaging from all the makeup they use for Halloween. So this is a really good example as well of how we can work with influencers or with other people that have maybe a bigger prescription power than we do within their own community. So I let you maybe watch. So as you can see this video, she's transforming over the course of the video. So there's a bit of a makeup video as well as instruction on the recycling. And I let you watch also really short videos of our digital campaign that we did on other products. So as you can see, we were really trying to use the codes and the world of the beauty industry to communicate around packaging, as we also know that talking about environment is not always what works when it comes to influencing behaviors.
Yeah, it's interesting in the campaigns because you're clearly linking the kind of flashy, designy beauty aspect and the waste management side, like showing that you can be caring for yourself and caring for the environment, even if you're talking about waste actually and collection. So that's interesting. Thanks for that. There is actually one question that comes back onto the nail polish aspect and the fact that you asked to remove as much as possible the contents. I mean, it's actually quite difficult now to remove the content. Plus, isn't it possibly considered as a hazardous substance? I mean, that might even add a layer of complexity in the communication to consumers.
So even within the sector, having taking a decision on this was not necessarily easy, and we know that, as you mentioned, the volumes are relatively low. It's not probably what will make a huge difference in terms of volumes. However, what was important for C2, and maybe the angle that was taken by C2 in terms of communication, is how do we make the communication as easy as possible around for consumers, and therefore the communication is all packaging. And I can come back on that. Of course, there's challenge around the definition and the understanding of packaging, but the more exceptions we make, the more it's difficult for consumers to understand, and therefore the choice is also to really have clear rule, which is it's a glass packaging, so let's put it with the recycling glass.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Manon. And you stay with us because we also have our panel conversation later. So thanks for having shared that first part of a case study, which is really about, the consumer mindset in the bathroom and elements on communication. Now we will move to Spain. I can welcome then Laura Garcia. She is technical director at Ecovidrio, and she will be talking about how to put in place an infrastructure, a system that allows us to collect and recycle more bathroom glass. So please, Laura, over to you.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. I work at Ecovidrio. As you may know, we are the EPR scheme specific for glass packaging in Spain. So, I'm going to today. I will discuss about the role of glass packaging in the performance and cosmetic sector, but with a particular focus on packaging eco-design within this industry. First of all, I'm going to talk about my vision of the sector. Secondly, I will talk about the specific eco-design guide we developed for the beauty sector. Thirdly, I'm going to explain to you about the modulated fee we have for glass packaging in Spain, which is also has some relation with the sector. And to conclude, I will talk about a couple of pilots we are working on for the sector for next year, about retailers and nail salons specifically. So, starting about the sector. Let me begin with some context. This sector represents in Spain around 2% of the total weight of domestic glass packaging. Although it constitutes a relatively small portion, every contribution counts as we aim to achieve at least 80% of separate collection by 2030. So it's important to us. Even small quantities of glass packaging can make the difference. So we work with them, and as you may see now. Um, I would like to highlight some opportunities and also areas of improvement we've seen for this work we are doing. Starting with the opportunities, the market is increasingly prioritizing sustainable and high quality packaging. It's a luxury market, so it's normal. And I believe it's an area that glass excels. So it's good for glass packaging. Glass stands out as premium material due of its high added value, recyclability, safety, reusability, making it ideal for the demands of this sector. So this is the main opportunity we have. As for areas for improvement, these primarily relate to eco-design, which is why we are placing significant emphasis on this aspect. Key areas include reducing overwrapping, and improving the waste to product ratio may be focused. Additionally, the sector should avoid using certain materials that can hinder the recyclability of glass, particularly opal glass and borosilicates, and I'm going to explain about this later. So, about the eco-design guide we developed. First of all, it's a guide we work with in collaboration with Estampa, the Spanish Perfumery and Cosmetics Association. And the target was to assist companies in adopting sustainable packaging options and addressing all related aspects. So we developed it last year, and it's well, it's the name says, a guideline, a book they can read when they need some information about eco design and sustainability in their glass packaging. And explaining a little bit about this guide. Well, the main areas for improvement outlined in the guideline include reducing the weight of packaging waste generated, eliminating non-functional elements wherever possible, avoiding the use of glass types other than soda lime, or we may say common glass, for instance, opal and borosilicates. Also, avoiding the use of ceramic substances in cups and other additional components, and improving the separability of elements attached to the container to facilitate recycling and disposal. And here are some examples of measures that can be implemented, such as weight reduction, format optimization, reuse promotion, recyclability enhancement, and reducing environmental footprint. Well, this slide highlights examples of improvements for caps and atomizers, including, well, ensuring that they can be easily separated from glass packaging, and avoiding the use of multi-material caps, which may be also a problem for recyclability. And well, these are just examples. Obviously, the guide focus on also labels and caps and all the packaging. But well, I think the example here, just you can see that well, the work we have behind that. And by the way, you can find the guide in our website. It's in Spanish. Sorry about that, but I think there are many images, so you may find some examples that can be useful. And well, talking about this glass different from soda lime glass, borosilicate, and opal glass, and also ceramics. Well, these materials act as disruptors due to their higher melting points, which hinder recyclability in glass furnaces, obviously. So we are working with the sector about alternatives. And as an alternative to borosilicate and opal glass, we may find amber colored soda lime glass and pre-cut sleeves, because they can be used when necessary to minimize product photodegradation, which is the way they are looking for when they are deciding using this glass. So it's good to have alternatives. But for ampoules, we don't have any alternative. So it's something that we have to work on. maybe working on different separate collections or other alternatives. Not for the moment. So, and talking now about modulated fee for glass. Well, the 2024-2027 fee modulation decision for glass packaging in Spain for Ecovidrio is based on compliance with legal requirements and its contribution to increasing recycling rates and material quality. But specifically, recycling rates is the most important. So the goal is for the adoptive measures to serve as a catalyst for improving recyclability and promoting eco-design. And well, we decide to do a fee modulation based on bonus malus. So here you can see some penalties and some rewards. And well, all glass penalties involve a 50% increase in the applicable green dot fee for primary glass packaging made from borosilicate glass, opal glass, or ceramics, basically. So, well, this affects to the sector we are talking today about, and that's the reason why, even before applying this fee modulation, we've been working with them a lot, talking about this because, well, we would like not to penalize anyone. We just want to go to all the packaging be recyclable for the future. And well, the fee modulation has to be balanced, so does not affect to the total glass green dot fee. Penalties and incentives must be balanced. So the rewards we are using, the objective is to improve recyclability of packaging by conducting studies. So the money we are taking for the penalties is going to be used to conducting studies to enhance the sustainability of materials subject to fee modulation. And well, yes, finishing my presentation, I'm going to talk about two pilot tests we are defining at the moment to start in 2025, also with the Perfumery and Cosmetics Association in Valencia. The first one, we call it retailers. You can see here that, well, there is a bin we designed, and this involves placing these bins to collect glass in light packaging from the perfume sector. We may say small packaging, and in these bins. So we are looking for small packaging with recyclability problems, the ones we were talking before, and also ampoules and also all this kind of glass. And we are going to place around 70 bins in shopping centers, also over-the-counter chemists, retailers, perfume and cosmetic centers. And after, we will measure how much glass is collected and judge the feasibility of the project. And it includes a specific project logo, website, and communication to the public centers. And the second pilot test. Well, this is specific containers in nail salons, so it's specific for this kind of market. And as you mentioned before, this nail polish contains hazardous substances, so it's considered hazardous waste for the law in Spain. So this pilot test would analyze the cost and efficiency of a specific separate collection in nail salons in order to collect this polish in other way different to the glass containers. we designed a specific mini glue, as you see here. And well, we think we are going to collect in around 20 nail salons in Valencia, and also includes the specific logo I mentioned before. And the glass would be tested to be recycled, either for furnaces uses or also for construction uses. We will see which is the best option. And the duration of these pilot tests is 6 months. So this is I'm finishing now the presentation. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you so much, Laura. One question. I mean, you obviously talked about the placing on the market and everything that you can do to accompany brands in placing more recyclable products on the market. When it comes to the pilot projects on collection, that's quite interesting. What is driving the development of these pilot projects? Is it, let's say, within the scope of Ecovidrio, you're just trying to find more and more solutions for various products in the segment you're covering, or is there a direct demand from the cosmetic sector to try out these pilot projects? Where is it coming from, actually?
Well, I would say both, but basically the association, well, they are trying to work a lot. So yes, the proposal exactly for these pilots came from the association, but of course in at Ecovidrio we are working a lot with the sector, and we believe it's an important one for the present and the future of glass recycling.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Laura, and stay with us for the panel. And so now we can move to another perspective on this issue. We will go into the glass manufacturing side. I can welcome Corrado Ferrozzi. He is head of business unit for perfumery and cosmetics at the Stolzler Glass Group. You are manufacturing, packaging, including then for the perfumery and cosmetics sector. Can you tell us a little bit what are the evolutions in the market and how that is affecting the manufacturing side? Over to you, Corrado.
Thank you very much, Jean-Paul. Almost perfect pronunciation of my name. Yes, I will bring you the perspective of the manufacturing. I'm the BU director of the perfumery and cosmetic business unit of Stolzler, and which is focused mainly on production, design, and manufacturing of perfume and cosmetic bottles, which is a quite specific world. Okay, standing alone. I've been in my career in the pharma, in the food and beverage, and then I dropped in the PNC. I can tell you that there is really a lot of specificity that belongs to this sector. Okay. As a perfumery and cosmetic in Stolze, just to give you an idea, we are producing 140 million bottles between perfume and cosmetic, okay, in 2 production sites in France and Poland. And one important point is that we can today use only 50% of post-consumer recycled glass, okay, which is a really low number, which is even worse when we talk about the possibility of recyclability of the glass. Okay, because glass, we know very well, glass is almost a infinite recyclable material. It's fully natural. It's obtained by natural raw material. We know the characteristics of the glass. It has a potential to recyclability which is 100%. Okay? Unfortunately, in Europe, as of today, and we are almost in 2025, only 66% of the glass is really recycled. Okay, and the reasons are different. One, the main reason is the collection. Okay, only 80% of the glass is really collected. Okay, and then there is the other important point that during the recycling activity, only 86% of the glass is really recycled, is really capable to be reintroduced in the circuit. Okay. Then we put on top the fact that the perfume and cosmetic requires, especially perfumery high-end, a very high quality of the glass, a very brilliant glass, very transparent and clear, which not all the post-consumer recyclable it's suitable to produce this kind of glass. Okay, so this is the need for sure to improve our recycled rate, and especially to look for better quality of this PCR. So these numbers are quite, let's say, scaring in terms of percentage of real collection in Europe, and the real possibility to have dedicated chain to make this kind of production with an increased number of PCR. When we talk about the reason why it's not possible to recycle at 100% the glass, is not because of the material, but is mainly essentially because of the sorting. What does it mean? That all the components that now are entering the packaging, and I'm referring specifically on the perfume and cosmetic, they are recyclable. Okay, so the accessories, the plastic, the metal, the glass itself, they are recyclable. Okay, it's not really a matter of material we are utilizing, but it's more a matter of how we are capable to sort them out in order to separate the different material. Okay, and as of today, as I said, only 70%, and consider that this 70% it's the overall glass business, so including everything. When we talk about perfume and cosmetic, it is much higher. Okay, so which are the reasons why we cannot recycle? First of all, the material. A lot of beauty packaging is not easy for the customer. As Manon said at the very beginning of the webinar, are not really capable or is not immediate to understand where the material needs to be recycled and how. Okay, especially when you have a perfume bottle with the accessories, the pump, which is crimped to the glass. Okay. Also, the size is playing a role. It's immediate to say a bottle of wine, empty, can be put on the bin of the glass, definitely. But when you talk nail polish, it's very small. It could be that psychologically it will be really easy in the generic waste. Okay. The other reason why it's very difficult to recycle is because of the material mix. Okay, so each bottle right now, each container is, especially on the luxury side, composed by different materials. The pumps and the accessories, the dropper is the most evident. Okay, but then you may have a metal plate, some extra component which are contributing to make this icon image of the container. Okay, and this is something that during the recycling is not easy to separate, and in some cases this is something that is reducing the efficiency of the recycling process itself, unless you decide to broke it manually or to broke before disposing this material. Okay. The other part is the product configuration. The product configuration, this is more related to the decoration technique. So there are different decoration techniques that right now are used to increase the value of the object, that in some cases are not really compatible with a very efficient recycling system. So a lot of effort needs to be done in order to configure this decoration technique to allow 100% recyclability. Okay. And in all these axes, we are working as a glass manufacturer together with the customer. okay? Because we need to preserve the iconic image of the container on one side, on the other side, provide solution to make them recyclable. And this is where the glass producer are contributing. Okay, so for example, we need and this is more and more evident glass product where we can separate the different components. Okay, in order to give the possibility immediately at the end user to separate and dispose immediately at home the different components: glass on the glass, plastic on the plastic, metal on the metal. Okay. The other one is work on the decoration, both on decoration that can allow the recyclability in terms of inspection, sorting, as I said at the very beginning. On the other side, to be sure that none of the decoration is not 100% recyclable, also in terms of material. Okay. And of course, there is the big topic linked to the glass, which is linked to the above mentioned elements, the lightweighting in order to reduce the carbon footprint, and the PCR, as I said, in order to make more sustainable the activity. And this is the axis that glass manufacturers are working. When we are talking about practical example, definitely it's more and more common to have assembled system in order to make, well, from one side the refillable, the reusable packaging, on the other side the correct disposal. So glass that can be 100% of the glass, and the remaining plastic that can be recycled on the plastic. Okay, this is a quite easy example, but this is something that you can apply also on the perfume bottle. On the past, I guess everybody has a perfume bottle at home, and I guess that 90% the pump is crimped to the glass. And this is something that it's very difficult to take it away at home. Okay, but this is something that can generate a problem in recycling later on. So the refillable bottle, but especially the finish, the screw neck finish, in order to separate the accessories from the glass, is definitely one direction we are all moving, okay, in order to make them really recyclable. This, in addition to the possibility to have some component like the pump, because today the majority of the pump are still subassembly with different material inside, move to pumps in a mono component. It means that in this case the bottle is easily you can easily separate from the accessories, and the bottle is going in the glass, and the accessories, which is in a mono component, mono material solution, goes directly into the plastic. So in order to really facilitate the possibility for the end user to separate at the very beginning. You were talking before about the need to pre-clean the container. This is correct. This is something where also the industry is working in order to easy to empty, taking everything away from the container in order to not leave one single drop inside the container. This is something that also the industry is working on. Regarding the decoration is really about sorting. Okay, and there are a lot of studies and commission working on the impact of the decoration on the recyclability of the container. There is a very, very well done study done by Estée Lauder, which I reported over there, which is measuring at which point we are reaching the limit of recyclability. Because it's very nice to have an opaque container, but the opaque container is infringing the rules of recyclability. So the sorting machine on the recycling system are not capable to distinguish by a glass, a piece of glass, and a piece of ceramic, a stone, a porcelain, which is one of the big enemy of the glass industry. Okay? So we need to be sure that the light transmission is in any case guaranteed in order to have 100% recyclability. And the good news is that above 50%, we are 100% sure we can recycle. And 100% is not opaque, but is approaching opacity. Okay. The other one is the coating. As I said, we need to have eco-friendly technology for coating. It means powder coating, decorative transfer, but all coating that can be easily, if they will remain attached to the glass, once melted again, disappear and will be burned off. Okay. Other solution could be, in order to guarantee the maximum of the light transmission, to work with the clear glass, but with coating, special coating, in order to protect the fragrances and the color of the perfume. And these are UV filter. There are now solutions with really advanced UV filter that can allow you to have the same level of protection of almost an opaque container. And this is something that is an extra possibility for the sector to improve this recyclability rate. Okay, so these different axes on which we are working in order to increase or better decrease this 17% that needs to go to zero. Okay, on the other side, the behavior of the people and the system of collection, because today, the perfumery and cosmetic glass is not collected with dedicated cycles, except for some big group that put in place, like Sephora, recycled system. Okay, this is something that needs to be developed if you want to continue to increase the PCR rate in the glass without degrading the general aspect of the container and preserve the iconic image of this kind of product.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Corrado. I mean, obviously, you focus a lot on the design part because you're providing these containers then to the beauty sector. And obviously, I imagine there are lots of discussions on, the functionality, both in terms of actually using the product, but also presenting the product, which leads to big conversations around design. And now you have to embed into all of that also the recycling aspects and the broader sustainability aspects. Is this a big push coming from the sector? And do you feel that the targets that are being set on the containers are difficult to achieve, too ambitious?
It's ambitious regarding comparing the big target that we are having mid-term. Long term, we are talking about 2030, 2050. So the decarbonization is really a roadmap that we decided altogether to take that will require the sector, the glass manufacturer, invest 20 billion euro from here until 2050. Definitely, this is a big challenge because from one side we want to really increase the sustainability of the glass, and this is a mantra. We need to guarantee that. On the other side, we do not want to degrade the general aspect of the container. As of today, we have really narrow and limited possibility to go through this kind of solution. And this is the reason why the sector is working a lot. So the pressure is absolutely very important. We make some further step respect from some years ago, because some years ago, the PCR was the main driver at the very beginning, okay? But then we understood that there are some other leverages also on the perfumery and cosmetic, which are even more powerful than the PCR in terms of contribution, which is the lightweighting. The lightweighting is absolutely, okay? But also the proximity, the transport, because the entire sector is really involved 360 degrees. So we lost, or we are abandoning the concept of the PCR, which is still valid, but we are introducing a concept of LCA, Okay, because we need to look at the packaging in a wider range, not only the PCR, because also the lightweighting is contributing, the decoration is contributing, the transfer is contributing. So we need to have really a broader view of the content.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Corrado. I propose then that we bring back Manon and Laura. Obviously, I have plenty more questions for you. I think we've opened already lots of doors and windows into this sector, and we will continue. I just want to reflect on a poll that we carried out through the Close the Glass Loop LinkedIn page, trying to identify what is the biggest challenge for collecting bathroom glass. And it turned out that our community on LinkedIn, 69% consider it's really about consumer awareness, but the second is on limited bathroom sorting space. So coming back also to what Manon was saying in terms of the bathroom is not well designed, for consumers, and then to a lesser extent, issues around packaging design and the longer product lifespan. I would like to ask you, what do you think is the biggest challenge? Do you agree with the community of Close the Glass Loop? Manon?
Well, the four, of course, are factors that can play on the space. It's interesting to see that that number relatively high on the space on the bathroom. That's a bit of a personal point of view on that, but more than a CTO position. My intuition is that we shouldn't necessarily incentivize having recycling bin in the bathroom. The bathroom is generally not so far from the kitchen, so I think walking 10 meters to the kitchen to throw a glass packaging or a bathroom every 2 months is probably not the main barrier. So I don't necessarily think that's maybe the direction we should go to. If I should choose one of them, I definitely choose their work on the design of the packaging. And it's really interesting to hear from Corrado and Laura on the work that is being done in other countries as well. Situ does a huge work as well, and it's obviously facing the same challenges around design and recyclability, and I'm happy to tell a bit more. Maybe one thing to say is that actually when you work on the design and when you communicate on the work that is being made on the design of perfume, you also indirectly engage consumers. I mentioned earlier in the presentation a challenge around the trust for consumers on recycling, but also motivation around environmental practices in general, and consumers tend to consider that they are the only one making an effort, that government don't do enough, that companies don't do enough, and that individuals are the ones that have to do everything. And there's also globally a tendency to underestimate what other citizens do. So we always think that we are the ones that are doing the most. And therefore, making sure that actually companies do their part and communicate, and it's something that is visible for consumer that they do their part, is also really a way to motivate citizens to do their parts.
Okay, so the design also has a vehicle to inform and educate and raise awareness with consumers. Laura, which one would you go for in the four?
Well, I totally agree with Manon, but I will add also that awareness generally is quite important, because sometimes I think some people still don't know very clearly if a perfume or a cosmetic is also glass packaging. So about this iconography we are talking about, and these messages that we send to the people when we are talking about awareness and our communication campaigns. For instance, at Ecovidrio, we talk every now and then about also cosmetic and perfumery sector. Just not forgetting it, not talking just about these big glass bottles of wine or brewery we have to think also about awareness, and that the people think that it's also glass packaging that has to go to the glass bin. So I will go for that question. So I agree with the whole percentage that the
Community.
people, oh, the community, yes.
Okay, brilliant. Corrado, which one would you have gone for?
Actually, the awareness is going together with the composition of the container, because if you look, the perception why of the packaging complexity is very limited, which is not true at the end of the day. It's because is going together with the awareness. So we need, and I agree with Laura, probably the people are not sure where this what kind of waste is this bottle. Okay, so we need to work a lot in order to make this much clearer. I appreciate the initiative to have a specific collection for perfumery and cosmetic bottle. Okay, there are some countries that are making with the batteries. Okay, I'm not talking to go to the batteries like this one, but definitely this specificity is going together with the need to collect this kind of glass, also to improve the beauty sector, to increase the PCR content. Okay, we will not be able to increase the PCR content and preserve the glass quality with the PCR availability that we have right now. So having a separate circuit is absolutely necessary. Is awareness culture.
So I understand all the points that you're making, but let's say that we have framed this whole debate with the assumption that we are doing less well on the collection of bathroom glass than we might be on food and beverage glass, let's say. And I would just wonder, is that assumption in any way something we can prove with hard evidence? I mean, we might have some circumstantial evidence in relation to survey studies, feedback from consumers, like Manon was suggesting in her case study. But is there any hard evidence that we might find bathroom glass in residual waste that would actually confirm our assumptions? Laura, are you able, for instance, to make analysis of this kind, or is it actually very difficult to find that kind of hard evidence on the topic?
It is very difficult. Unfortunately, we don't have any relevant data about this, because it's just 2% of the glass packaging, as I said, and glass packaging in general waste is 3%. So if I go to a general waste plant, this would be, let's say, 0.06%. So it's very difficult, extremely difficult to analyze, and we don't have the data. And so I don't know if it's more than this 0.06 or less. It's nowadays we don't have that. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's interesting, and I think it's important to highlight. And I wonder also, on an industrial level, Corrado, is the beauty sector, are the brands, let's say, more interested in getting information on the way their products are disposed of? And is there any kind of traceability that glass manufacturers can provide to them? I mean, as you were saying, you need access to very, very high quality post-consumer recycled glass. Are you somehow able to have that traceability? Would you be able to provide some kind of hard evidence that, yes, it's collected a little bit less than food and beverage in a separate collection system?
I'm with Laura. It's really difficult. We are not stratified enough, and we don't have this granularity on the data. Okay? We are trying also as a European Association of Glass FEDE and part of the FEDE to get this number, but really to have such a level of detail, it's really complex. We have the overall number, but not the
So we are working on the basis of assumptions. And Manon, you would say the feedback that you're getting from surveys and studies would probably reflect something close to reality? Would you have a lot of confidence in those surveys?
So the surveys, they are based on declarative, right? So of course we do our maximum to limit the bias in the surveys. Sometimes they are more interesting. The data is not necessarily interesting per se. What's interesting is when you compare different products, because you can assume that the assumptions and the bias would be the same for different products, or when you compare over time. Also they tell us more sometimes about what people think they should do than what people actually do. So they're really interesting when it comes to really understanding people's knowledge and understanding. When it comes to practices, they have their own limits. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to show a short clip. Previously on the show, we had Stéphanie Lambert from the French Beauty Sector Association. Let's listen to Stéphanie.
Glass is actually only 16,000 tons of cosmetic packaging on the French market. And that's only 0.6% of the total of glass household packaging, food and non-food combined. So we're talking about a very small part of the global packaging and glass packaging put on the market.
So just to reinforce that point on the size of the market, I mean, you've all talked about it. It's small. I wonder, Laura, what is the right approach when you deal with something that is a small segment? I mean, you especially are representing, really glass packaging on the market. Does it actually make sense to do something specific on such a small segment? Isn't it better just to communicate more generally about glass packaging and include then that segment within the broader general communication on glass packaging?
Yes, well, of course, I think both approaches are correct. If you are doing a general communication and you can include some icons talking about perfumery and cosmetics, I mean, we do it in social media, in our communication campaigns, it's correct. But sometimes if you are working on a specific campaign that makes sense talking about perfumery and cosmetics, also we can do it. We've already done it with several campaigns, and I think we have to work in both ways, because both ways are not incompatible.
And I would imagine then for a multi-material scheme such as Citeo, I mean, Ecovidrio would be really focused on glass. Citeo is focused on all materials. So do you see a value in separating your communication per product segment? Or do you prefer to have a communication that is really focused on materials and then covering all possible segments within that material? What's the better approach in terms of communication to consumers?
So Citeo has changed its strategy when it comes to communication over the time, because we've changed our whole approach to communication. Started with we started from a material-led approach to communication to more of a packaging concept-led of communication, and this is because until obviously the rules have changed over the past 10 years in different parts of France progressively, but until relatively recently, some types of plastics were not allowed in the recycling bin, which means that we started developing since we launched a recycling system, that the glass was separate, like collected separately. So we kind of started with a material-led approach, but the more product we added, and the more it started adding a lot of complication for consumers, right? And so the choice that has been made is, okay, when it comes to communication, let's not think the way industrial think. Let's make it easy for consumers, and then in the back office we'll organize to separate the products if needed. And so therefore the communication now for Citeo is all packaging goes in the recycling bin. The limit for that approach is one, that the glass collection is actually separate, and two, that the concept of packaging is not that easy. And the beauty sector is a perfect example. People can think of packaging in many different products, but however, they don't necessarily think bottle as packaging, and that's even more true for perfume. We're coming back to the nail polish, which is our favorite example, isn't it? So that's definitely a limit. So our global approach is really to communicate on packaging as a whole more than on material. And then what we're trying to do as well is to infiltrate some worlds where consumers are not necessarily expecting us to speak about waste. So as our collaboration with influencers, where we are talking about beauty industry, and so in that context, yes, it does make sense to talk about only recycling practice for only this type of products.
Yeah, thanks for that, because it is a tricky one. I mean, we see also in the lady with the makeup and the Halloween. I mean, it's clearly a product centric video, with lots of different materials coming in. So it's interesting because it's true that overall extended producer responsibility schemes have taken, let's say, more of a material approach, and that's into more products is an interesting one.
And I can add as well that there's still a lot of work to do in our general communication. So typically when at the collection points for glass in the cities, very rarely you see representation of bathroom glass products. So there's definitely some improvement there that can be done as well to make sure that, because also, as we may discuss, looking at what's on the product and looking at what's written on the collection point are really source of information that are being used a lot by consumers when making decisions. So that's really important to make sure that bathroom glass is representative as well at the collection point.
So on that note, I mean, we have discussed indeed the complexity of the design. I don't want to talk about it so much in terms of the industrial side, but really in terms of the consumer side. When he is faced with a complex packaging and the kind of information that he needs to integrate in order to make the proper decisions on, separating different materials, understanding that one material is actually glass amongst that complex packaging. So there is a potential, I think, in the bathroom glass sector that designs can be confusing to consumers when it comes to sorting. I think that's something that has come across from the various case studies. In the meantime, we have the packaging and packaging waste regulation, and maybe we can just show the image of the planned pictograms that are part of that project. The idea being that there would be pictograms applied to a packaging, a container, and the same pictograms applied to the waste container where consumers would need to deposit the correct packaging. And so we see here, for instance, there would be potentially colored glass, clear glass, or glass as a generic category. These are not yet official established pictograms. They're just an idea, a project in motion that may be implemented. I'm just wondering, Corrado, for instance, do you think that this kind of labeling pictogram system could provide relevant information to consumers? And do you imagine this kind of pictogram applied to a cosmetic or a perfume bottle in your sector?
I would exclude in the perfume bottle and the cosmetic. I would exclude. Okay, maybe on the boxes outside, but I would also think very, 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 very difficult. Okay, so I think somehow we need to arrive to a point. The sector will provide some information to the customer. We need to arrive at that. Okay. There will be a balance between the preserve the image, the value. We can talk about perfume that can arrive to 300, 350, 400 euro, even more. So you can imagine how it would be really in terms of perception. Okay, but we need to arrive over there. So I would exclude on the bottle itself, probably on the packaging, yes. And in any case, I've seen the pictogram for many of the products we are producing will not be enough.
Which is obviously a problem if it's only on the box and the box gets thrown away. But Laura, what do you think about this pictogram, applying it specifically to the kind of products that we get in the bathroom?
Yes, well, I think it's quite difficult just one pictogram to represent glass packaging, and this just represents bottles. So it's so difficult for cosmetics and perfumery, even for jars. I mean, I don't think it's a good solution, but also I understand that they have to choose something for each material. They want to choose something for each material. I imagine for plastic it's also difficult, and it's almost impossible to design just one icon and for one sector, for all the sectors representation. So obviously, in with this image, we are not going to do the awareness we want in labeling the container or labeling the bin, the glass bin. So we have to do more. Obviously, yes.
Manon, I mean, you were hinting at that this could actually be a helpful solution. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, well, communication on the packaging is one of the preferred source of information for consumers when it comes to guidance or in recycling. I find it also really challenging for bathroom glass, and obviously even more in particular for luxury. I think what's really interesting is that all the challenges that we face around the design, the choice of glass, the weight, in particular the decoration, that CTO is also doing a lot of work around that, also using a financial incentive. All the challenges at the end of the day are related to marketing. And in the luxury industry, consumers probably buy the packaging nearly as much as they do buy the product itself. So it's really nearly seen as the product, and there will be limits to what we can, to finding this, as you said, right, this right balance between environmental consideration and marketing consideration for that product. In France as well, obviously, luxury is a massive product of export as well. So there's a lot of challenge, and there's a lot at stake around our image with that and our economy. So maybe one way that we could address both marketing and environmental consideration for me is really the refill route. That I find particularly interesting, because you can invest in a really beautiful bottle that is still seen as luxury, as when it comes to making a present, but at the same time, on an environmental perspective, you refill it, and that's again the most interesting solution from an environmental perspective.
Especially if, as a consumer, you feel very attached to the packaging itself, you know, the beauty of it, or
and we are approaching not only Black Friday but also Christmas. We know the importance of packaging. We know that there's a lot of presents being made around it as well, which makes it even more tricky.
Yep, brilliant. I would like to finish with a last thought on innovation in terms of design for circularity, and I'd like to play one more clip from Stéphanie, who was previously on the show. Let's listen to her.
Another way to move forward to integrate a higher level of recycled material is instead of finding solutions to make the change imperceptible for consumers, you can also embrace the visual characteristics of recycled glass and make it part of product marketing.
So embracing the visual characteristics of recycled glass. Now, what Stephanie is hinting at here is that there is one angle of innovation, which is to say, let's try and include more recycled glass into our packaging and maintain the same level of premium transparency that the glass requires in that product sector. There's another innovation, which he's hinting at here, is to say, well, let's embrace the visual characteristics to say we can accommodate for a little less transparency in the beauty sector for some products. My question to you, Corrado, is which direction do you think is the best in terms of innovation?
The technology is there. In terms of innovation, is to increase the PCR content and guarantee the same transparency. This is a challenge. You need to work on the raw material, the quality of the raw material, the glass composition, and this is something that, especially with the existing raw material and the quality of raw material, it's not easy to keep this kind of transparency and brilliant glass. Okay, so we as a sector, we have done a lot in this direction. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about luxury glass, and I'm not only talking about bathroom glass, but also high-end spirits. You can imagine bottles for high-end spirits. They have the same problem. This is the same problem. There is a limitation on this PCR content linked to the quality of the PCR, not the presence of the PCR, the content, the quality of the PCR. If you would have the PCR at the same quality of your PIR, okay, that would be easy. Means that the big barrier today is collect glass with this characteristic, with this content of iron less than 300 ppm. If you're gonna have this, you're gonna increase the PCR. But to have this, you need to have a specific collection chain, which is separate. The other one, it's marketing. The other one we can reach. We have a production that are running at 80% PCR. This is not a barrier. This is not a technological barrier. It's just a marketing choice. We degrade the glass, and the customer needs to be ready to degrade the color of the glass. Some customers do that. They do. They decided to go with more sustainable glass, and they do not really care about the final effect. But in some segment, this is still not mature.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Laura, in your eco-design, let's say, policy or measure, do you have a preference in terms of the direction of innovation that the sector should take? More uptake of recycled content despite maybe less transparency, or more recycled content and the same transparency?
Well, we are not focusing so much about the recycling content and transparency because we've seen other problems to face first, as I talk about in my presentation, because we thought that using other kind of glass, different from soda lime glass, it's a biggest problem. And well, about even about talking recycling content, we know that there are some furnaces in Spain that they are using for, especially for perfumery and cosmetics, a high level of recycling content. So we are not worried about it either. And about transparency, we haven't seen that there is a problem about transparency, a specific problem. I mean, about that here. I mean, if obviously if you paint something and you make it opaque, can be a problem for optical machines, but it's not something that we are seeing at the moment in the treatment recycling plants that we have to improve and get better. So we would focus on the materials.
Okay, brilliant. And Manon, maybe just to go a little step further on the luxury sector. I mean, obviously, in the background of all of this, there is a certain link to the luxury sector, and these are products that are not quite the mass products that you would find in the kitchen, like the food and beverage. These are not fast-moving consumer goods in the same way. So this is a very specific category. And I'm just wondering, do you have any idea of the expectations of consumers in terms of recycling, in terms of recycled content of packaging? In this sector, are consumers having very different expectations, and therefore they're not really drivers for brands to make such changes really in the market? Do you see any difference between consumers of luxury products and other types of consumers in terms of their expectations?
So I don't have access to any data around this, and I'm sure some of our clients in the beauty industry might have more insight on that. My intuition is that the consumers' expectations are probably lower than on other product, because especially in the luxury, it's something that we do for pleasure. And therefore the pleasure is a priority over environmental consideration. And again, if we had to choose one innovation, I think the refill and reuse is really something to explore further to address both challenges.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Laura, Corrado, Manon. It's been great to have you. Thank you for sharing your insights, various perspectives. Is there any final word that any of you would like to leave with our audience?
Well, in principle, I'm with Manon on the refillable. I think this is one topic, but we need to continue to work on the collection. Again, 66% recyclable rate with a material that can be recycled 100% in 2025 is not possible.
Okay, brilliant. Laura, final word for our audience? A final reflection?
Yes, well, bathroom glass, perfumer glass, beauty glass, it's also glass packaging, and we want to collect it and recycle it. It's our target.
Brilliant.
Maybe my reflection is just to see how common both the challenges are across the country, how the approaches also for extended producer responsibility organization, the approach are also relatively similar. So I think that for me shows also the importance for this kind of event as well to get inspired and to exchange on this subject.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Manon, Laura, Corrado, for having shared your insights, and obviously also for the preparation. There's a lot of preparation time in this, so thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.
So that was episode 13 of 90 Minutes to Close the Loop. We really focused on bathroom glass this time. It's not our typical focus. I think we've often talked more in general terms about glass packaging, obviously food and beverage. It's also a sector that is not actually, part of the European partnership of Close the Glass Loop, but obviously there are lots of actions on national level. And as Manon said, what we're trying to do with Close the Glass Loop is to build a community of professionals who can exchange practices, case studies, and sometimes I think it's good also to go in a very focused manner on certain product segments. We're hearing that there is also an evolution in the way extended producer responsibility schemes are communicating to consumers, from materials to products. So I think that these are trends that we need to bear in mind as we try and improve the systems for collection and recycling. So we will continue to do that. Obviously, you can follow all of our work on LinkedIn especially. Also go to our website, closetheglassloop.eu. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to be part of the community, we're a very open community. And we will gladly invite you to our working sessions. This is the public part of what we do, but we also have lots of internal working sessions where we go very deep into all sorts of technical issues in relation to glass collection and recycling. I hope you enjoyed this session. Take care and see you next time. Bye-bye.